Hello and welcome back to Up the Villa podcast. This is our opposition preview, and I'm delighted to be joined by Dan from RedmenTV. How are you, mate?
Yes, mate, I'm all good. Appreciate you having me on. Looking forward to it.
Cool. So last weekend for you guys was absolutely mental. I don't think I've seen two goals that I've rewatched from an opposition side like that, because they were just quality goals, weren't they, from him? I mean, how clean those goals, and to come back with 10 men was such a great result for you guys. So what's your thoughts post Newcastle as a Liverpool fan?
Yeah, I mean, you said it there really yourself. I mean, it says against all odds in the top corner. It was a little bit like that. When we went down to 10 men, I really worry about us with 10 because we don't go down to 10 often. But when we have done in the past, we really struggled. Like, I remember us at Man City a few years ago when Sadio Mane kicked Ederson in the face, went down to 10, and we just capitulated, obviously against a very good Man City side. But when we went down to 10 at Newcastle, with the atmosphere and them really at it, they'd also just taken the lead. You're like, oh, this could get a little bit sticky here. But credit to us and credit to what Jurgen Klopp did, especially at half-time. He made us really solid, and it was strange because Newcastle, they had chance. Obviously, Alisson pulls off a couple of big saves, but they never really sustained any pressure. We were always in it, and that's all we had to be. And Klopp made smart changes. He brought fresh legs on in Jota and Harvey Elliott, which kind of got us in the ascendancy. And then when the game had descended into enough chaos, he dropped Darwin Nunes into the situation, which is the perfect time. You don't want to burden Darwin Nunes with too much thinking, too many tactics. You don't want him tracking runners. You just want him to go and do what he does best. And too often last season, he got in them sort of moments. He got in them opportunities, and his composure was lacking. His quality was lacking, if truth be told, last season. But then it was as if he'd been annoyed by not starting games. That was the third game on the bounce, obviously not started the season. And that was a message from him. That was start me next week, obviously, in the Villa game. That was a real statement. But not only that, it was high quality. Like you said it there, the two finishes are right out the top drawer. Like, they are elite level finishes. And I'm not going to sit here and say he's prime this, he's prime the other, because he hasn't done it often enough. But sort of on their own, both of those strikes. I mean, Nick Pope is a high-class keeper. He's got no chance with either of them. No. They are out of the top drawer, and more of that, please, Darwin. I mean, like I said, we signed him for a lot of money. He scored a lot of goals for Benfica. I actually think a lot of the reason why we signed him was just how good he was against us, because at Anfield in the Champions League, he ran us ragged. So he's got that in his locker. He just needs to do it more often. But yeah, Sunday was mental. It was wild. What it did do as well, obviously the moments were brilliant, but it did also show that for all of our frailties last season, and there's still some there now, you know, backs against the wall, we can still pull off a bit of a miracle. So the signs are good.
Yeah, you make some great points. Darwin Nunes, you know, for me as an onlooker of him, I've always thought he always gets in the right areas, and it's sometimes his finishing that does let him down. But the fact that he gets in those areas time and time again told me that he is a good player and he can finish. So, you know, do you think that now this is like the birth of Nunes at Liverpool? Is this like, are we going to see him like in the side week in, week out now? Do you think that's enough for him now, confidence-wise, to sort of be talked about as one of the top strikers in this league or in Europe? Can he hit this level now?
He should be able to. I think, like I said, I think he's got the wherewithal, he's got the attributes, he's got the ability. You said it there, he is an absolute chance magnet, and that was always the positive last season. Even when they weren't going in, you could have a conversation about, well, he was there, he was getting himself on the end of these opportunities, so there was always that positivity around him, and we love him. Most Liverpool fans adore him already, even though the numbers haven't came. And I think he was done a little bit dirty by the fact that he arrived at the same summer as Erling Haaland. Like, when you both come for big money, both strikers, you're both quite good looking, there's a lot of pressure, and he obviously never got anywhere near those sort of levels, and already people were using that as a stick to beat him with. So it was difficult for him last season. His English wasn't great. He's got better with that as well, which is a big help when it comes to understanding and stuff like that, what is required of you. But in terms of what it means now, It's an interesting one because there were times last year, like last season, he scores in the Community Shield, he scores on opening day against Fulham, so straight away he's off to a flyer, and you think, here we go, this is easy. And then he gets sent off against Crystal Palace, and from then on out, he never really settled. It was like he is a big confidence player, and he plays off it massively. And that Palace red card knocked him completely. And like I say, he never really got going again. So there's been a couple of false dawns with him. I hope this isn't another one. But when it comes to confidence, and he is a bit of a confidence merchant, this is massive. Like, he was over the moon. He was ecstatic. He was buzzing. The celebrations were epic. He gets man of the match. So really, all the tools are there for this to be that line in the sand moment and say, right, you're the man now, go and do it. We'll come on to sort of the game of the weekend. I still have my reservations whether Klopp will put full faith in him. I think he probably should, and he probably deserves it, but Klopp prefers lads like Cody Gakpo, Bobby Firmino of the past, ones who, they've got that quality, but more importantly, they'll do the defensive side of things and they'll work for the team. So it's going to be really fascinating to see whether this is it for Darwin now and Klopp just goes, yeah, off you go, or whether he still holds him back.
Yeah, it's been a decent start to the season as well. 2 wins and a draw. So, looking from last season as a fight, it was potentially a bit of a blip season, and it's important for Liverpool to bounce back this season and do well. And, you look at a game like that against Newcastle, that could be a real big moment in your season to sort of have that belief going into the rest of it and sort of just, sort of like announcing yourselves back on the scene again. So as a Liverpool fan, what is the expectation this season? Like what is the fan base sort of craving?
Well, it's craving another title challenge, if truth be told. And under Jurgen Klopp, you could call us sort of entitled if you want, but under Jurgen Klopp, that's what we've come to expect, because more often than not, that's where we've been. Last season was catastrophic. We were miles off it. And the problems were there pretty much from day one, really. The midfield had ran out of legs. I think the quadruple effort of a year earlier had taken a toll more than anyone could have anticipated. And obviously not getting the transfer window right thereafter doesn't help. We end up signing off for Melo on deadline day. I mean, you'd be forgiven for forgetting that happened because he played like 13 minutes of footy. So we knew there were problems and they weren't addressed. And therefore, the season that we had wasn't a huge surprise. But when it comes to this season, there's still time to do another couple of signings, by the way, which we need. But top 4 is sort of a bare minimum this season for me.
Yeah.
And I think that sort of box off, and that shouldn't be like a top 4 fight. It should be come sort of March, possibly early April. It's pretty evident that we are secured in top 4. We shouldn't be scrambling around for it. If we're able to get anywhere near City and challenge them, even better, realistically. But then outside of that, I think winning some silverware. I don't really care what sort of form it comes in, but getting back to picking up trophies again, FA Cup, Carabao Cup, or the Europa League, any one of them would constitute a good season for me.
Yeah, cool. So we'll touch on recruitment. It's been a bit of a mad one. You've brought in McAllister, Endo, Szoboszlai. You haven't brought in Bellingham, Caicedo, or Lavia. So how's that been as a fan to see sort of top targets maybe not arriving, or like the first choice? Like, I think Szoboszlai started the season really, really well anyway. So it kind of feels like it don't really matter that you missed out on them. But, as a fan, how's the window been? You mentioned you might be bringing some more in. So who else is on the radar?
It's been a busy summer when it comes to transfers, to be fair. Obviously being fully engrossed in it, with my job and stuff. I'm really made up with McAllister. Szoboszlai, like you say, has hit the ground running. He's been superb, especially in the fact that we've been playing with 10 men for the majority of the season. So Szoboszlai's been outstanding. Like a man possessed when we go down to 10. He just does not give up. He's brilliant. Endo, I think, will do a job. He's not flashy. He's like 16 million quid from Stuttgart. He's 30 years old, but he'll be fine. I've got no issues there. When it comes to sort of missing out on people, the Lavia saga was a saga. It was a mess, quite frankly. And I still don't know why Chelsea signed him. I have no idea. I honestly believe that stop us signing him. Like, he hasn't been on the squad yet for Chelsea. It's mental. Caicedo, that was a smart move from us in terms of he was the answer to our problems. Like, him as the sticks would have fixed everything. it would have left no money in the budget to do anything else, but he would have solved the issue. So I get that, and the fact he went to Chelsea, he's made his bed, so he can go and lie in it. I've got a pretty strong hunch as to why, and it involves a lot of money, not only for him, but in terms of his agent as well. He gets paid an absolute fortune, so can't really blame him for that. Bellingham, oh mate, I love Bellingham. But then again, that comes down to sort of finances a little bit as well. And Real Madrid isn't the worst choice in the world, is it? I can take being second best to Real Madrid just about. Chelsea stings a little bit more. But yeah, like I say, our recruitment has been a little bit scattergun at times, I'd say. Like the appointment of Jörg Schmadtke was an odd one because we've gone from Michael Edwards, Julian Ward, sort of the best in class in the sporting director's role, to what is essentially Jurgen Klopp's mate from back home in Germany. A little bit strange. He retired in like January, I think, and then come out of retirement to do this job. So that's a little bit muddled thinking, I would suggest. But yeah, there is time in the window, like I say. We still want Ryan Gravenberch, and we still want Piero Hincapié from Bayer Leverkusen as well. And like I say, hopefully we can get one of them done. I'd love Gravenberch. I think he's a brilliant player. Hasn't happened in Bayern Munich at all. Brilliant prospect at Ajax. We wanted him in his Ajax days, and there is potential for that deal to get done. But what it is for me, just to finish on that, is our squad and sort of our first 13, 14 players is fine. Like that would compete in what I spoke about earlier, the trophy. It would compete in the top four, no problem. But we've seen time and time again now that when you dig a little bit deeper, Thiago's injury prone, Curtis Jones picks up injuries, Konaté's injury prone, and so on and so forth. So you're just increasing your odds of having that successful season by adding a little bit more squad depth, that's all.
Cool. So we'll turn our attention then to the game on Sunday. Villa at Anfield, which hasn't really been the best hunting ground for Villa, but last season we did pick up a 1-1 draw. So what are you expecting from Villa? What are your thoughts on Villa? And how's your style progressing with Trent going into midfield? You've got Van Dijk potentially out. So where do you feel like Villa could maybe do a little bit of damage as well?
Well, I was pretty terrified of this game before we lost Konaté and Virgil van Dijk, if I'm being honest, because I really like Unai Emery. I think he's a brilliant manager. And what he is really, really good at, and you'll have seen this firsthand most probably now, is Liverpool under Jurgen Klopp has been really successful. We've been really successful pretty much with one way of playing. And if that doesn't work, we just try and do it a little bit harder. Whereas Unai Emery sets his side up based on what the opposition are and what they do. And we encounter that at Villarreal. They give us a big fight at Villarreal a few years ago when he was manager there. And I remember watching them go to Old Trafford, and Danjuma was just frightening down the left. So Emery's a brilliant manager. I think he had a hard time first time around in England. Great appointment from you guys. You know, obviously following Steven Gerrard's pretty unsuccessful footsteps. But yeah, Emery worries me because I think Villa would like to come and play football. Of course they would. They'd like to come and be expressive and sort of play with a high line and do all the flamboyant stuff and take the game to us. And you may well do that, of course you may. But I've got a sneaky suspicion that Emery will sort of see our weaknesses and think, well, that's the best way of beating them then. And he'll try and exploit that because that's the smart thing to do. Too often teams come to Anfield or to other grounds and they say, no, this is the way we play, so we're going to carry on. And then you get a hiding because you can't come to Liverpool and try and out-football us 9 times out of 10 because we win that game. But if you come to Liverpool and sit deep and make life difficult and hit us on the counter, different story altogether. So I'm worried about Villa. I am, and like I say, with both centre-backs being out, it leaves us with Gomez and Matip. And I think like Diaby, I really like Ramsey. I think he's a brilliant player. Ollie Watkins has revitalised since Emery came in. So it does concern me. The midfield battle is going to be exactly that. It's going to be a battle. McGinn, Kamara, Douglas Luiz, really good, really intelligent footballers in there as well. Work hard. And we lost too many midfield battles last season. So that's going to be fascinating to watch. I'm intrigued. One area of the pitch that does intrigue me, you mentioned sort of Trent there. Often opposition teams will target Trent's side because he does go wandering and he now wanders into midfield as well when having 11 men on the pitch allows him to. He's already done it this year because we just haven't either had the ball or we haven't had the full quantity of players. So he hasn't done it a lot yet. But interestingly, a lot of teams are targeting Robertson's side now because I wouldn't say he's vulnerable, but he's not as good when he has to tuck in and be that left-sided centre-back. And with Matty Cash, obviously you guys, I wonder whether that'll be a way of getting at us potentially for you. But yeah, I think it'll be a really good game. I think both teams will certainly score. We might come on to predictions a little bit later. But yeah, I'm concerned because I've been so impressed with Villa since Emery came in. And moreover, I really like Unai Emery.
Yeah, I think you are right in your assessment of Villa, to be fair. And that's one of his big traits that he's got going with us, is that he's just so versatile and he just plays differently to every opposition. Like, he was speaking after the Burnley game, and we are trying to be that possession-based team, and he was just like, we're probably not going to have, we don't want to have too much of the ball because they'll press us, so we'll just go quite quickly on the counter. And that's exactly what he did. And Cash spoke about him after the game, and he was just saying that, everything that he says before a game generally happens in that game. So yeah, he's mad for his options. So yeah, I think you're right as well. We'll probably look to try and get in and around Trent or in and around Robertson. So if I had to ask for a score prediction, what are you going with?
I'm going to back us, of course. I'm going to back us, and not just because obviously I'm a Liverpool fan. The Anfield thing is still a thing. Our record at Anfield remains very impressive, even when times were hard last season. So the Anfield factor remains, but it's more. And defensively, we're not solid. We're still not solid. Midfield isn't right yet. I make no two ways about that. It's not quite happening. However, our firepower is ridiculous. Like we spoke a minute ago about Darwin Nunes potentially not playing, and he's just bagged 2 on the weekend and 2 proper finishes as well. And you could easily start on Sunday without him. You could go Jota, Gakpo, Diaz, Salah, any one of them 3. So that's why I back us to win most games at the moment, especially at home. So score prediction-wise, I'd probably say, I think it'd be tight. I'd probably go Liverpool 2-1, just because, like I say, our options in attack are ridiculous right now.
Yeah, and finally, I haven't asked you about Salah, by the way. What's the vibe with that? You're not going to sell him, are you?
I don't know. I'm worried about it. Don't get me wrong. Obviously,
Really?
Yeah, of course. And the messaging coming out from Klopp and of course the club is that no, not a chance. Why would you do that? That'd be insane. However, as we've seen a few times now, I know with Henderson and Fabinho, both times, it was a case of the player having their head turned and the player going to the club and saying, listen, I want this move. And when that happens, it's really, really tricky to stop it. And Liverpool, as a rule, don't stand in the way of their players. There's probably a conversation whereby you say, oh, give us another season or, wait till January or whatever. And who knows, that may sort it. That might be it. But if that conversation happens and the player, Salah in this instance, is still like, no, I want to go, I'm desperate to go, what do you do? Do you have an unhappy Mohamed Salah sticking around for 6 months or 12 months or whatever it is? Or do you have to take the money? It's so tricky. Obviously, I hope we don't sell him. He's still incredible, absolutely incredible, and shows no signs of slowing up, quite frankly. So, desperate for him to stay. The money would have to be 150 million, there or thereabouts, possibly even more. It'd have to happen in the next 48 hours, so we could sign.
It's a lot of money, isn't it?
It's crazy money. Yeah, it's crazy money, but like it is what it is. Especially this time in the window, you know what I mean? Like it's so like you need a premium price. But yeah, I don't think it's going to happen. I'm worried about it, and I'm even more worried by the fact that our deadline's Friday at 11, and theirs like a week later. So we've got a whole 8 or 9 days of Salah watch to go yet.
Yeah, crazy. Cool, mate. So thank you for coming on, and have a great season.
And you, mate. Nice one. Appreciate it.